Bechoros Daf Lamed, we're learning in the Mishnah that if a person is suspected not to keep a certain mitzvah, it doesn't necessarily mean that he doesn't keep other mitzvahs, especially if in his mind the other mitzvah is more chomer. For instance, and this Mishnah goes according to Rabbi Kiva, if a person doesn't keep Shemitah, it doesn't necessarily mean that he doesn't keep Meiser. So if you buy fruit from him, when you take off Trumsa Meisers, you don't take them off as if you must take it off. You take it off because it's the Mai. Why? Because people think that Meiser is more stringent than Shemitah because Meiser Sheni needs a wall. On the flip side, if somebody is very makbid on Meiser, it doesn't necessarily mean, or if he's not makbid on Meiser, it doesn't necessarily mean that he's not makbid on Shemitah, because Shemitah has a chumrah where if it's Asr, you cannot redeem it, and Meiser, you can redeem. According to Rabbi Yehuda, Shemitah is always more chomer in people's eyes, and he brings a story where somebody was really insulted by somebody else, and to insult that person back, he said, you don't even keep Shemitah, like a real bad curse. Shemitah was very chomer to them. According to Rabbi Meir, if a person is not makbid on one mitzvah, he's not makbid on anything. We have to suspect him in the entire Torah. If a person is suspected that he doesn't keep Shemitah and Meiser, so certainly he's not going to keep a Rabbanan like Taharos. But if a person doesn't keep Taharos, which is only the Rabbanan, it doesn't necessarily mean that he doesn't keep the Dairaisis. However, in the Braisa, it seems like that if a person doesn't keep Taharos, he doesn't keep Shemitah and Meiser, and we have to explain it. Rabbi Eli explains that in our Mishnah we're talking about that we noticed that this person keeps Shemitah and Meiser in his own home. He's not trying to show off that he keeps it, he really keeps it, and therefore he's not chashed. Rabbi Yanai says that in the Braisa it's talking about a person was suspected to not keep Shemitah and Meiser. They brought him to Bezin, and he promised them that he's going to keep it from now on. And then we saw that he didn't keep one of them. Since he didn't keep one or the other, it means that he didn't keep both of them. He has a migoy. Since he didn't keep one, he doesn't keep the other. And the Mishnah finally says at the end that if a person doesn't keep one mitzvah, he cannot be a dayan in that mitzvah, and he can't testify for that mitzvah. A person that's a ger, and he's suspected not to keep one mitzvah, we don't say that his geros wasn't the geros because you have to keep all the mitzvahs. He is a ger, he's just considered a mumar, a Yisrael mumar, and therefore his kiddushin is a kiddushin, his wife needs a get. There's a concept called chaveros, where a person, Aretz, he decides to be makbid on tahara and to wash his hands and everything in the list, and everything that he buys he's going to take trumos and meisers, everything that he sells, etc., etc. And if a person accepted upon himself chaveros, but he suspected that he doesn't keep one of the chaveros things, according to Reb Meir, since he doesn't keep one thing, even though it's just a chumrah, we have to suspect he doesn't keep anything in the Torah because he has no integrity. He said he's going to accept it upon himself, and he didn't accept it upon himself. So the entire Torah is suspect by him. According to Chachamim, he's only suspected for that one particular thing that he didn't accept upon himself. If a person says specifically, I want to become a chaver, but one of the things in the list I don't like, I'm not going to accept upon myself, we don't accept him into the club. A guy who comes to become a ger, and he says, I'll take the entire Torah besides one chumrah of the Rabbanon that I don't accept upon myself, we don't accept him as a ger. A Kohen and a Levi who don't accept upon themselves one of the avodas of Leviim and Kohanim, they are not part of the club, and therefore they don't get matnos kuhuna and levia. If a person, we saw that he acts like a chaver, he has the whole list of chaveros, we saw him doing it in private, and he comes and he wants to be part of the club, we accept him immediately, and then we teach him the halachas. According to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, we don't have to see him doing it in private. If a person says, I want to become a chaver, we accept him into the club immediately, and we let him learn the halachas as he goes along. If a person says, I want to accept upon myself knofayim, wings, in other words, I want to accept upon myself netilas yadayim, which you raise your hands up like wings, that is the main part of chaveros, to keep your hands tahar from sheni of tumah, so that you don't make the truma shlishi, and we accept that. We let him do that, and if he only accepts upon himself another thing, then we don't accept him into the club. Once he accepts upon himself chaveros, how long does he have to act in this chaveros until he's literally part of the club that we don't suspect him for anything? According to Beis Shammai, it's 30 days for liquids and 12 months for clothing. According to Beis Hillel, everything is 30 days, even clothing. In order to be accepted into the club of chaveros, you have to do it in front of 3 Talmid Chachamim. If the person who wants to be accepted in the club is an elderly person who is in the Beis Medrash, he doesn't need 3 people, because the fact that he's in the Beis Medrash, that's as if he had 3 people. The machlokes is whether a Talmid Chacham needs 3 Talmidei Chachamim to accept him into the club. According to Abba Shaul, you don't need. According to Chachamim, you need 3 Talmidei Chachamim, and Rabbi Yochanan explains this is based on a story that Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Yehuda sent a suffix they had to Reb Chanina ben Antigonus with their Talmidim. Reb Chanina ben Antigonus was concerned that their Talmidim will touch his truma, and he put guards to watch it. Rabbi Yehuda heard about this and he was furious. How could he suspect Talmidei Chachamim? Rabbi Yossi calmed him down and said, from the time of the Churban Habayis, Kohanim accepted upon himself an extra maila to watch their truma, and that's what Chachamim hold, that even Talmidei Chachamim need 3 Talmidei Chachamim to accept them into the club. If a person accepted upon himself chaverus, does it necessarily mean that all his children are also chaverim? According to the Tanakama, you don't need the children don't need chaverus. It's accepted upon themselves automatically. According to Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, just because a father is stringent in something doesn't mean that his children are, and therefore they have to accept upon themselves chaverus. A wife of a Talmid Chacham whose husband died, she and her children are considered chaverim until otherwise notified. In other words, if there's no chashad that they're doing something wrong, then we just say she's continuing on with the minhag of her husband. And the same thing is, if they were selling tchelas when the husband was alive, we don't have to suspect that they're doing something that's selling klei ilon. We could assume that they're selling real tchelas until we have a good reason to believe they're not doing so. A wife of an Amoritz, who's not a chaver, or the daughter of Amoritz, or the slave of Amoritz, whose husband or father died, or master died, and they got married to a Talmid Chacham, they have to accept upon themselves chaverus. But if she was the wife of a Talmid Chacham, and she was already a chaver, and her husband died, and she married Amoritz, and she went back to being married to a Talmid Chacham, there's a machlokes whether or not she has to re-initiate herself into chaverus. According to Chachamim, she doesn't. According to her mayor, she has to accept upon herself chaverus again. Reb Shimon Gamliel says there's a story with a woman who, when she was married to the Talmid Chacham, she was busy with mitzvahs. She was wrapping tefillin on her husband's hand. As soon as she was married to the Amoritz, she was wrapping tax deeds to her husband's hands. So you see that a woman goes by her husband, and therefore, when she remarries for the 3rd time to Talmid Chacham, she has to accept upon herself chaverus once again. Have a wonderful day.